Welcome, everybody. Episode 2 of the EmpowerMAN podcast. Once again, I'm Greg Tedora here with my boy, Mike Gallagher.
Welcome,
And
everybody.
welcome. And we've got a lot of questions and requests since episode 1. And I just wanted the number one question we got was, what do we do for a living? So I'll start off. I'm a strategic growth coach for one of the top real estate companies in the Northeast, as well as Florida now. And so basically, I'm in charge of growing the agent's business, and having them make as most money as possible for themselves. How about you, Mike?
I'm a coach. Actually, I think that term gets thrown around a lot. I think it's, the barriers to entry in the coaching business are pretty minimal, especially what you see on social media. But I'm a health and human performance coach. So what does that mean? That means just maximizing people's potential, based on strength and cardio and nutrition and recovery and mindset, and really providing holistic solutions for people to just get through life. I mean, like with the way the pandemic has what it created, I mean, let's take a pill for this, take a pill for that. I'd say over 50% of people's lifestyles, choices affect their health. And I provide a platform for people through naturopathic medicine and other various modalities to do things naturally to really achieve what you want in life.
I mean,
And that's it.
I love it. Mike's on the physical, mental side of things, and I'm pretty much what he does on the business side for people. So it's a great 1-2 combination because I think they interlock and feed off of each other when you're dialed in all areas. You can hit peak performance in every single one of your personal categories, in my opinion. So,
I agree.
that was the number one question we got. So, I love what I do, and I love helping people, grow their business. But I've learned that I've really enjoyed more the mental aspect of their growth, and their confidence, which is what we're going to get into today. A big thing is self worth. Has This is for the guys out there. I mean, it's for girls too, but we're catering towards the guys here. Have you ever asked yourself, what is your worth? I say it to the agents all the time. I speak in front of I do a lot of workshops with other managers. So we're in front of hundreds of agents, and I always ask, like, what's your worth? And it's kind of everyone's like a deer in headlights when they hear that question, because I don't think it's a basic question that I don't think gets asked at all, or hardly.
But I think to add on to that, what does worth mean to somebody? What is that word worth? Is it money? Is it social status? What does worth mean to the individual?
Yeah, totally. And it means different things to everybody. So, I mean, when we were younger, what's our worth was monetary and possessions, and look at me, and look at all the things that we acquired that at the end of the day don't really mean anything now that we're older. So I think I like the time value of money. If anyone said, if you could have more of something, what would it be? I just want more time for myself, for my family, with my friends. I want time, and I equate time with worth and money. What about you?
Self worth for me is about how I feel about myself, like not allowing myself to do something that's beneath me. That was one thing I learned in my journey of self enlightenment or just becoming a better, well rounded person. It's like never do anything that's beneath you. I also I done professional wrestling too, and I still do it, and I've been doing it for half my life. And I remember when I first broke into the wrestling business, many years ago. I was taught by one of the veterans, never do anything that's beneath you. So if drugs are at a party and you want to impress people by doing drugs, but it's beneath you, then your self worth is really not what you think it is. So basically, to me, self worth is never doing anything that's beneath me, and having that like almost like that line in the sand where it's I will not cross this line. And if I do, then my self-worth kind of goes down the toilet.
Yeah, and I think it goes with maturity as well, and getting later on in life where,
That I
you
agree.
know, Mike said it, when it changes as you grow into yourself, and when you grow with your friends and you grow away from certain friends, as well as relationships. I think that when you're younger and you're not totally aware of who you are, which is what we talked about in episode one, like identity, if you don't truly know who you are, I think it's a struggle when you get up to that line, like you just said, that, you know, you might not want to cross, but you do anyway because you're kind of immature or younger, or you know, you don't have all the answers yet, and you're not supposed to also because you're young and figuring it out. And, you know, we said in episode one, him and I have been in the trenches. We've made good decisions, we've made bad decisions. We've, as long as you're learning from your bad decisions, I consider that a win. So I think that, you know, as you get older, you don't want to cross that line, you know, and because I think you're, someone is learning more about their identity, their self-worth, and they might teeter up to that line, but they don't cross it anymore like they did when they were younger.
Agreed. And I think the biggest thing too is get back up. We're all gonna fall. We're all gonna stumble. We're all gonna fall short at some point, right? So we can beat ourselves up and be like, oh man, I screwed up. I'm worthless. I'll never be able to make it. Or just get up and keep fighting. You know, life is a fight. Let's be honest. We got to fight for everything that you have in this life. Some battles are physical, some battles are mental, some battles are emotional, some battles are spiritual. But there's a battle that rages and wages in us every day. It's having the weapons to fight these battles. And guys, you're gonna stumble, you're gonna fall, but you gotta get back up. That's the number one thing with self worth.
Absolutely. And I think that when you start comparing yourself, whether it's in business, life, possessions, to someone else, you know, it could become a problem where you focus too much on that. It's a good thing to have ambition and to see somebody that's successful that you want to strive to be. I agree with that. I like that. I think that's positive in my opinion. But I don't want it to, and I tell everybody, all the agents this, don't let it consume your everyday tasks that you have to do in order to grow yourself. You'll get there if you just stick to your path. And the worst thing you can do is compare yourself daily or weekly to somebody that's been in the game a long time. And what I always tell them is the person you're striving to be or you admire, whether it's business, personal, whatever, I don't care. They 100% have fallen, like Mike said. They've failed numerous times, and they dusted themselves off. They learned from it, and they just kept going. They probably failed again, but they kept going. They kept going, and they came out the other end, and there they're at now. And people, I think, that are either, I'll tie this to the business side. You could tie it to the you know, the personal side. I think people that aren't at a certain level yet, they let their saboteur come in and consume their thoughts and consume their positivity, and it totally changes to negativity. They doubt themselves, and there goes their self-worth down, down, down. And if they don't get control of it, it's spiraling out of control. They're not going to get a hold of it. They're going to wash out of a business. No, I don't care what business it is. You're going to wash out. Same thing in relationships, same things with friendships, same thing with finances. You can interchange any of these categories, and it's you, if you don't get a hold of it, your saboteur, I call it, it's going to ruin your life. It's going to ruin your ambition. It's going to ruin your relationships. It's going to consume you, and you're going to hit bottom, and be real upset.
And I can attest to every one of those things you said.
Likewise,
You know,
Mike and I are
so
completely
life.
transparent. We've been there
Oh,
more than one time. We've been there numerous times, and we've come out the other side, and we've learned, and we're better, and we do it again, and we're better than when we were that second time. It's just, you're always growing. It's okay to feel like shit, get down on yourself. It's fine. But you have to know your worth, surround yourself with good people. That's a key thing right there, which I'll talk about in a little while. But it's okay to, spread your wings and just get back in the saddle.
And I agree. And with self-worth too, you got to find out the origins of your self-worth, because we can come out here and say, oh, with those negative feelings, just get a hold of it. Man, just, come on. Just but everyone has a different lineage in their self-worth. Most people, not all, that come from a complete family, well, maybe might have a higher self-worth. You never know the statistics, and I don't know them. I don't pretend to know them. I just, based off observation, sometimes in a broken home or a home where the parents are divorced, it gets kind of tricky depending on who has custody and what you're around, because for a man like myself, my mom, I lived with my mom, and I was with her 80% of the time. So my mom's the greatest woman in the world in my eyes. I love her to death, and there's no one better than her. That's me because of my personal bias. But again, having a father full time for a man is extremely important, especially during those formative years. Likewise for a woman, having a female that they can see that pattern. It's like most guys don't know how to treat a woman because they've never seen that pattern growing up. There's a small percentile. I think this would be probably fair to say, and agree with me on this one if you feel I'm right. Most men don't see that pattern because of certain dynamics in the home. Like, just for a simple, guys, when you walk with a girl down the street, put her on the inside. I was at the
Man,
beach today
nobody
walking
knows
down
that
Atlantic
this day
Avenue.
and age. Nobody does that.
Come on, guys. Like, just do the right thing by a girl. And even these girls, like, don't be so like, oh, I can walk the way I want to walk. Listen, chivalry still exists, ladies. It's tied into self-worth. If a guy is very confident and knows who he is and know how to treat a lady, don't deprive him of that, because it actually makes a guy feel good to treat a girl with respect. But B, it's okay, girls, to be treated like a lady.
I'll add on to this. Any real woman, and I don't care, you could put an age on a real woman. I'm not even, it could be older, it could be younger. A real woman wants that and knows about it. And I think the chivalry is getting worse and worse, I think, as time goes on, because these people don't know how to even communicate. They don't know how to talk anymore. They don't have game. They don't know how to get for us, to get a girl's number, you had to have game. We call it macking on chicks. You had to know what you were doing. Nowadays, it's like, oh, I don't even know. I don't have it. Like, I'll Snapchat you, or like, I have a good story. So my nephew, I think he's 14 or 15. He's 15 now, and coming into his own, awesome young man, super positive, and definitely a good role model for that generation. He was like, "Hey, Uncle Greg, I like this chick in my CrossFit class." And I'm like, "That's awesome." I'm like, "Why don't you ask her out?" And it was like a little bit of like silence. And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "What do you mean? What do I mean? Go up to her after class and ask her out. Take her out." He's like, "No, I have her Snapchat. I'll just do that." And it's so what's natural to, I'm not hating on them, but what's so natural to them, I'm sorry, it's completely unnatural to you and me. I don't get it. I would just ask her out, ask her for a number. I would call her, like, call on the phone, and I would have a conversation and just do our thing. You're gonna eventually have to talk anyway. I don't know. The whole chivalry thing is weird nowadays. I couldn't even imagine doing it now, but I'm, like I said this last episode, I'm glad we grew up when we grew up, because we had real life skills when it comes to going on a date.
But we've always said this: if we were alive in the 70s and 80s, would have thrived.
Oh, it would be awesome. It'd be awesome.
You know, I
We'd
was
also be
definitely,
dead
even the
now.
music.
We'd be dead now, but it'd be
Probably,
cool.
probably would have died of pneumonia,
Yes.
because I did live across from the original Studio 54
We,
when I was living in
we,
Manhattan.
we.
That's right.
Yes. Started out in a
Five T
two
six
bed.
S. Two dudes living in a 500 square foot studio apartment at 30 years old.
I had two cats at the time also, so that was fun. But anyway, getting back to that, I think
Yeah.
I'm grateful we grew up when we did, and we laugh about it all the time. We I mean, I remember being in junior high school and like nervously dialing the phone. And when the girl's mom picked up, I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, hi, is Michelle there or whatever? And who's calling? And I'm like, ugh, it's Greg the door. And they're like, oh, hi, Greg. You know, like the whole build up to
Yeah.
that phone call. But that's a great experience to have, I think. Like, I love that feeling, those nerves. And I just think it helps you later on in life. But we're definitely going off on a awesome tangent right now.
But you know what? Back then, like I don't even. I think we talked about this in our last podcast. Like, where's the romance anymore? Like
You
we talked
you
about your parents.
You nailed
Where's
it
the romance anymore?
last episode. It's a simple word that you know what,
Romance.
you don't even hear it that much anymore. Romance. Where is the romance these days? It just it barely exists. And I blame guys just as much as girls nowadays.
Oh yeah, and the social climate's changed too. I
It's
think
horrible. It's horrible.
even when I was in my last serious relationship, I mean, I tried to make it a point every Sunday, even if it was just one flower, like one rose, to have like a fresh rose every week, just because I loved her very very much. You know, uh, so I think therein lies like just little things, guys. Like, unfortunately, perceptions of what love is. How do you show love, right? I have to buy something extravagant, or I got to take her to the Four Seasons, or we got to go to the Capitol Grill, or we got to go drive down to Miami to Prime 112, wherever you
Which
are
we've all
in the
done.
world. We
We've
we've
all
done,
done.
yes. Oh, we sure have, and we had a lot of fun doing it.
Yes, we did. But it's
But
not,
I think, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
think it's
exactly. So
yeah. Go ahead.
it's not. I'm sorry. I will go
No,
back
it's
and forth.
okay.
It's not about the extravagance. It's the little things. Like, just before, if you go to work, guys, early before she does, she knows she drinks coffee. Set the coffee pot up for her, babe. All you got to do is flip the switch. Have a little breakfast waiting for her if you know she's not going to eat. It's putting her first, and it's like something so simple. It's not you got to buy her like diamond rings. Just put her first. Hold the car door open for her. Like maybe make her lunch or make her breakfast. And if a girl doesn't appreciate it, oh well.
I was just going to say, however, after a certain amount of time, if it's not reciprocated, and I'm not talking about something over the top, she doesn't have to like buy you a motorcycle or a car, anything like that, but it's a little thing. If it, you know, it should be returned. If you keep doing these things and it's not returned, I'm telling you right now, get rid of her. Get rid of her.
And you are 100%. And that ties into self worth as well. Because
Yep.
if you have a good self worth, you'll recognize red flags and you'll know. And I've always said this, I'm very tolerant in a certain way, but I have a limit. And when that limit gets pushed,
That's
there's
it.
no turning back.
It's like a switch. It's a one-way switch. And when it's off, it's off.
No turning back.
Yeah,
You know, you
100%.
So, guys, know your self worth, because that's going to permeate throughout everything you do in your life. How you treat people, how you treat business relationships, opportunities, how you interact with the world is going to determine your self worth,
And how
because
you take care of
that
yourself in your field.
100%. And you know what? It was your great idea. And I got to give Greg this credit. I did my second CrossFit Open on Friday,
There you go.
and that was you. That was all Greg's idea, because we were
I just
two
got to get Mike
meatheads.
to do cold plunges, then I'm set.
Yo, oh, my second my little tub here in my
I
apartment. I'm
love
all
him.
in on that one,
I
man.
love him.
Oh, aren't they the best, man? Cold
Yes, they
plunges are
are.
so awesome.
They are.
What a way! Cryotherapy is awesome too, man.
I haven't tried that
Three
yet.
minutes of that, dude. If you ever do cryotherapy, guys, go in. They're gonna ask you to play. They play a song. At least the ones here in Delray Beach, they do it. I have a great relationship with this place called Restore. They're all over the country. I
Yep,
know
we
the
have one near
owners up
me.
here. So,
Yep,
dude, 3 minutes in the cryo tank. They're like, "What song do you want to hear?" Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
there it is.
It's about 2 minutes and 40 seconds. That's all you need, and you know when it's gonna end, begin, and you're out.
But you see, everyone that listening, it's nice to hear this, but the word he said in his sentence, he said relationship. I have a relationship with this store. I have a relationship with this owner. I have a relationship with this person, this vendor. It's and I'm it's hard for me to dial in for you guys. Relationships are personal, business, and self, and they all just work in and out of each other every day in your life. Life is all about good relationships. It starts with a relationship with yourself, then it starts with a relationship with your family, friends, and it'll trickle into how you take care of yourself and what you do at work or for work or whatever company you own or whatever. And I think I see it daily. So I don't want to say it's frustrating for me, but it's, it's sad in a way that I say the same thing to the same people week in and week out. You know, I hold these workshops that I get a lot of people, a lot of like, we have like 100 agents that come and they love coming. However, they don't retain a lot of the stuff that we talk about. And they're always like, oh, wow, you really, now I'm in real estate. So you rarely talk about real estate. And I'm like, yeah, I know, because the business will come, all that other stuff will be there. You have to be confident, secure in yourself. Our business is all about relationships, so is Mike's, and you have to be confident in front of people. The business will come. The business will be there, but you got to get there first. And the only way to get there is knowing your worth and building good relationships. And you have a good morning routine, you work out, you eat healthy, you will do better at work or at your job or at your business, at your company, whatever, in your
Yep.
relationships. It just bleeds into each other. I can't stress it enough.
And you mentioned those three things, right? The personal, the business, and the self.
I
But the
consider them one.
yeah, but the common denominator for all that, to add on to that, are your values.
Yep.
If you have a really good understanding of what you value, and we talked about this on our last podcast, Greg, you had that great exercise, that you gave your agents to do during
Yep.
one of your um, workshops. But if you know your values, you're going to know your self worth. And, they, like you said, they all bleed into each other, but the common denominator, what are your values? So self worth is such a dynamic topic because there are so many paths to go down, so many roads that we can take with this. So that's a great call with that.
And I think that, a lot of people fight against it. They're like trying to swim against the current instead of going with the current and adapting towards the direction you're going. I think having a good core group of friends and real friends, not acquaintances, not like, oh, hey, what's up? How you doing? I see them at the gym or I see them, at the supermarket. No, I can count on both my hands, probably on one hand, my real true friends that if I called them right now, it doesn't matter where they are, they're there. They're there. Mike is one of them. And I think that it's important that we touch upon this in episode one. Like, everyone's a tough guy, especially where I am now, and down in Florida too, because I live there too. But like, Westchester County, all the local heroes that never left, whatever, all the telephone tough guys, and they have to put on this front. They don't usually get too far in life, and I'm not talking financially. They might make a lot of money. I'm not talking about monetary value. We're talking about self-worth here, and are they truly happy with themselves? And what the point I'm getting at is, you need a core group of friends that you can literally talk to, bounce ideas off of, one, but also open up and talk about real shit, emotions, vulnerability, but be comfortable with them no matter what they say. That's a real friend. That's somebody that's there for you. And if you don't have one, you should get one or work on it. But it's a tremendous thing to have, and it really helps when life gets tough.
It's funny. I'm looking up Jim Valvano's speech, and you made that. For those that don't remember, Jimmy Valvano, the Jimmy V Foundation was formed in '93, and he had a quote that said, "Don't give up, don't ever give up." But he also mentioned earlier in that speech, if you laugh every day, you love every day, and you cry every day, that's a full day. And I think for me, I cry as a drop of a hat. Man, I have no problem
Yeah.
doing that. I mean, I think maybe that's because being raised by my mom, maybe that made me more sensitive in a lot of ways. Of course, I cried during movies. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, full disclosure. I watched The Notebook with my last girlfriend. Yeah, bald. I mean, bawling, and I fought it too. And she got me. She's like, "You're gonna cry," and I also cried during Rocky too. You know,
Well, it's
but
funny you say that because a true partner, no matter who they are, is not going to care that you cried. All right, I
yeah,
know some pretty rough and tough guys that'll, cut your head off, but they cry. It's okay to do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think the last thing I cried at was, if you haven't watched 1883 on Paramount Plus, it's lights out. I think it's the best show that's ever been made. I was done at
shameless plug number one.
Shameless plug. I was done at the last episode. Absolutely done. Granted, I have daughters and it was a girl, but man, I didn't. And here's the thing, I was with my wife, and I'm not afraid to shed a tear. I mean, I think in the past when I was younger, maybe you can attest to this too, Mike. Some of the girlfriends that I dated, yeah, I would hold that back. I would suck that down and fight it as much as I can because I thought that's not what a guy is supposed to do in front of their woman. And now that I'm older and I know more and I have more self worth and I'm tapped into it, couldn't be farther from the truth, man. Just let it go.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with you on that. Just letting it go. When I opened up to a woman, you know, usually there'd be a lot of floodgates out. I think for a lot of men, maybe they don't, maybe they can relate to this, but I've always felt an emptiness ever since I can remember. I've always
What kind
felt
of
lonely.
emptiness?
It's something I can't really explain. It's like there's a piece of me that's been missing my entire life.
Okay.
I just feel empty, and I've always felt empty. And not that my life is empty, because I've been able to evolve and grow into some really great things, but there's an emptiness inside that hopefully, like that emptiness, I think, of being with a partner or being with someone that you'll love and care about. And I've never really had that. I've had certain incarnations. I think a lot of girls, they love the idea, but they get that kind of misconstrued with their values, because a lot of girls, and we're hoping to bring some girls on this podcast, guys. So this way we can get a real male female perspective
I
on
have three that
different
want to
things that
come
we're
on.
talking about.
Well, I got three
Yeah,
lined up.
I got three on standby. So we got
Perfect.
six people. It's awesome. And I think having that for girls, they associate financial security with emotional security, and their values get like we joke about this, but it's like, I'm the type of guy that a girl loves to be with, but not full time, because they want to take the safer route. That's because when I was younger, I was a little off my rocker. I was a little out there, we all were. But I think for me, that tied into my self worth, because that's really, I shortchanged myself because I didn't think I deserved better than that. That's all I was going to get.
I think I did the
Now it's all
same as
game.
well. I'm guilty of that too. I think we were
Yeah.
a certain way because we thought we had to be, you know?
I 100%, I 100% agree with that. And, I had a chance to talk to some people last night. I had a wrestling match last night down here in Pompano. I had a chance to talk to a few people afterwards. And it's all about like that identity. Why you know why am I the wrestling character that I wanted to be? I was asked that question, and I think because I took all of my childhood experiences and the rejection and the anger and everything like that, and I said, man, I fell in love with my heroes, and I want to be just like them, because I didn't love who I was. It's like if I meet you for the first time, Greg, and I'm like, Greg Tedora is amazing. I want to be like him. So I grow my beard out. I start lifting weights. I start crushing protein shakes. I start, you know, doing all the things that you like to do. That's called a mark, right? It's like I'm marking out for you,
Hmm.
right? It's not a bad thing, but it's like who's Mike Gallagher?
Yeah.
I could take parts of Greg Tedora, and I can take parts of this person and that person to help me build my identity. But to replicate who you are is not good. And it's not good for any guy out there to try to replicate another person, because you will never really know who you are.
And I think
Yeah.
most guys out there or young men are doing that as we speak, and they're confused and they're not achieving what they want to achieve, whether that be personal relationship, finance, whatever. I think they're caught up in that.
Yeah, and social media, we're not going to blame social media for it because we choose.
I'll fucking blame it. I think it's
Yeah,
horrible. I told you
yeah,
there's a good place for social media. There is positivity in certain areas for it, but the most stuff that's out there is trash. The young kids have it at you know at an early age, and they watch it, and it's all fake. And this AI stuff that's coming out now that can replicate voices and faces, and you think somebody's saying something when it's not them. That's a whole other thing. I think it's ruining it. I'll blame it.
yeah, and you're not wrong, but we also choose to expose ourselves what to look at. Like
Yeah.
I'm choosing not to watch news anymore because I can get it
I
on
haven't watched in a
Twitter updates.
week. I haven't watched in a
Yeah,
week.
and I feel pretty good, And I, like I said last podcast, I miss my people, but I also know that I'm filling my time with, like, I love sports. I love. I mean, a big New York fan and everything. You know that, and I'll listen to some pastors speak, and it's all about on social media. I'm not gonna look at trashy things. A lot of their girls in like bikinis and thongs and like talking about how great life is. That's not bad. I mean, if for guys that want to see that, that's great. But you don't know what their feelings are like or what they're like behind the phone. So again, choosing what to look at on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. I really wouldn't get involved with TikTok, guys. It's
I stay
not
away from
really a
it. Stay
thing
away
that
from
I
it.
would do. So having that choice, but having your self-worth, knowing like I'm better than this. I'm not gonna look at a girl talking about sticking fingers in the guy's ass. I will read stories about inspiration, people helping people, or I will follow Shields of Strength. Shameless plug number 2 or 3. Shields of Strength is awesome, and it's about just honoring and doing things in a different way that help people through Christian stuff. So like I choose to look at that, not look at people that frolic on the beach in bikinis and thongs saying life's so good, and because then that creates a false narrative, and then we put that in our heads and we associate our self-worth with the false narrative that's getting fed to us.
And we try to strive, or they try to strive for it on a daily basis. It's unachievable. You just can't do it. It's impossible. It's impossible to do that. And it's a
and
waste of your time.
and Greg, I want to go back to a point you made earlier in the podcast about getting yourself a group of friends.
Yeah.
I believe we talked about this on the last podcast. Don't isolate yourself. It's very easy, and guilty of sin,
Oh, I'm
to,
totally guilty of it.
to isolate yourself. And thank God we've got this. So, I mean, we talk almost every day, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, like, don't isolate yourself, guys. You got to get a group of friends or join a community group or get involved in a rec league or something that's constructive, not destructive. Like, I wouldn't go to the bar and, get hammered every night and take home a different girl. Unless that's something that you want to do, then I'm hoping that it wouldn't be. You know your self worth, but I've been there, so you know what I mean. So and that was, yeah, it was fun in the moment, but then you wake up and you're like, what did I do? So
Like we said this last time, we wouldn't change anything that we did. We have amazing stories. We had a good time, and it's just we're just not in that place anymore. And I'm grateful we're not in that place, and I'm grateful
yeah,
we learned what place we want to be in now, both financially, work wise, friendship wise, relationship wise. It's a huge once you're there, it's like a huge relief almost that you don't have to put on this daily act or this this whole facade of smoke and mirrors, and it's enlightening. Not to sound
what
cliche, but it really is.
what tips would you give somebody if they don't know? Let's just say they're confused, or like this whole idea of self-worth, people think that they have an idea of what their self-worth was before listening to this episode, and since we've been able to expound upon that, giving people a different meaning of what self-worth is, if there's a guy out there that wants to know their self-worth but doesn't know how to go about it, what tips or what exercises would you give someone to really get more internal and understand what their self-worth is?
So I guess right out of the gate, I would, and I credit my wife for this because once again, I grew up in a different realm. I would start with a vision board. It doesn't have to be, on the wall or anything, but I would write down in a notebook things you want. And it could be any category. I don't care if it's a car, a motorcycle, what type of relationship you want to be in, what kind of partner you want to have, all the way down to you can get as finite as how much money you want to make or how much time do you want to have, which is my thing, or freedom, flexibility. Do you want to travel? How you gonna, where do you want to live? All of the, I would write it down. I do it every year. So I did one back, end of December, Jan 1, and it was 2 pages. And this is crazy. And like I said, I credit my wife for having me do this exercise, and I swear by it now. And my old self would literally probably laugh me out of the room saying this. I've checked off about 6 things already on that list.
It's huge, dude.
I mean, it's what, end of February.
Not even March yet.
It's crazy. It's when you see it, it's amazing. And I would put lofty goals on there. And I always tell the business people, make goals is a great thing to have, but don't make pie in the sky where you know it's pretty much impossible, because when you don't hit it, you're going to reset and you could mess up your current flow in a positive way, because I'm going to make $10 million next year. Could you? Yes. The chances are not yet. So when you don't hit it, you're going to get all upset. You're going to see this shit doesn't work and blah, 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 and you're going to get all negative town and you're going to go 3 steps backwards. Maybe you tripled your worth that year. That's a huge win. That's huge. You should be riding high instead of going back the other way, negative town, because you set an unrealistic goal. Set realistic goals. But once you see them on paper and look at them all the time, look at them once a week or have them out somewhere where you could see them, start checking them off. You'll be shocked. You will be shocked.
Right. And to go about goals, something that we use in my business is called specificity. The more specific you are with your goals, the more specific the outcome. And with those goals come smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, time oriented.
It's
So,
exactly what we do in my business as well. It's perfect. That's perfect.
so that's great. Um, I think if
I
I
would
were to
I would
give,
start there.
yeah,
Sorry, like going back to
no,
what
no,
you
no.
said, I would tell somebody that's stuck or whatever. I would start there, and I would start building the vision of the life that you want. And I don't care how old you are. You could be in high school. You can be in high school, out of high school, in college. I don't care. You could be 60 years old and start over. We know plenty of people that did that are hugely successful now. And I just think start within. And if you start, taking note of the negative stuff around you, cut it out. Just cut it out. You got to distance yourself from that. It's going to keep you down. We know people that we don't talk to as much anymore, and we had great times with them. They're great people. We have a lot of laughs, but let's be honest, I just don't want to hear negative shit every day. I just don't. I know you don't.
Draining,
There's
man.
enough of it out there that I don't need extra. And all you can do is try to uplift them, be there for them. But I'll be honest, you're not my first phone call if I need help or if I need to talk.
Yep.
And it's hard for people to do that, especially girls with their friends. I think guys have an easier time as they get older. They don't have 50 friends. Girls like to accumulate friends and, oh, I'm popular and this and that. And then when they get older, like, oh my God, where's Becky, or where's where's Jamie? She's not around anymore. And they have a hard time with that. I think guys just move on. And I think, like, my wife's a good example. She knows that I'll bring her up for certain things. She has a small group of friends now, and it's a great thing. Because what's the alternative? Having a big group of friends where it's just a bunch of shit talking and they just put each other down and it's negative, and you want to be uplifted no matter what. Life's hard enough. All right? You need a teammate. You don't need somebody that just throws shit at you daily.
That's the word, teammate. And I think our group of friends, we're a sick team. Our
Yeah.
group, our core group of friends, we are a
I
sick team.
start every email to my office, good morning team. Good night, team. Happy Friday, team. Everything is team. There's not one email that goes out without that starting. And then I end every email with attitude makes a difference. Earn it. Every email. That's my signature. You want to have an attitude, you want to be cocky? No problem. You got to earn it. You want to talk shit and be an asshole? No problem. Earn it. But if you haven't earned it, I'm not cool with that. And I used the analogy, Jimmy Johnson for the Miami Hurricanes football team.
Mm-hmm.
When he took over, they were like, I love Miami. I turned them down, by the way. Go FAU. So when he took over the football team, they were like criminals and they were partying on South Beach and they were like wild. And the president of the school was like, yeah, you got to tame them and this and that. They got to calm down. They're going to get fined by the NC2A. And he was like, listen, just let me do my thing. I'll get it under control. And he said that he had a meeting with them and he basically said, you guys want to act a certain way? You better win every game. And they did. So they can act like that. And I'm the same way with my office. You want to be a son of a bitch? No problem. Back it up with your numbers and I got you.
And what,
Right or wrong, that's what I do.
yeah, and it's 100%. What's that Kid Rock song, "Cocky"? Right.
And I
That
always
right
say
there.
it's
Yeah.
there's a fine line between confidence and cockiness. Like, don't cross the line. You could be super confident without being an asshole. But going back to the original topic we were talking about with self worth, I think each of us has this little, the good voice, bad voice. And the bad voice I call the saboteur. My wife calls it the same thing. And I think its job is to negate everything that, the good that's happening in your life and also set up the pitfalls ahead of you and trap doors for you to go in. So I'll use my wife as an example again. When we started dating, everything was great, like perfect. And she would get a little weird, like for no reason. And we were always open communication. I'm like, yo, what's up? Like, what's up with you? Why are you being weird? And she's like, I'm waiting for something bad to happen. And I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, I've never heard that before. I appreciate you sharing that with me. Excuse me. And then as she, learned more about it and educated herself on it, that saboteur was taking over her good times and it was ruining the moment, like be in the moment, all that stuff. So just think about it. If you're waiting for something bad to happen, let's just use dating somebody for an example, whatever. If you're waiting for something to go bad, you're almost like setting it up for failure. If you don't contain that little voice, it's going to take over. It's going to be a problem when there is no problems. Maybe the guy or the girl is really awesome and you hit the jackpot, and it happens to a lot of people that, were in shitty relationships or a bad previous relationship and they bring that shit to the new person. And I don't think that's fair. You got to start clean slate with everybody. As hard as that is, we've all been guilty of
Agreed.
not doing that. But
Agreed.
I think if you keep going down the road looking for something to go bad, it's going to strain the relationship for absolutely no reason. And it could ruin potentially, being with the person you're supposed to be with. So you got to be careful with that. It's a, it's a, it's a difficult dance to maneuver that. And you have to put work in to get rid of that because that also happens. I see it every day in business. And people have dreams and aspirations, especially nowadays after COVID. People are starting their own businesses. Mike, you started yours. And I have a couple side businesses. And I think this is so true. Some of your closest friends or family, they're gonna steer you wrong. They're gonna say, "Oh, you're a dreamer. It's not gonna work. What are you gonna do if it doesn't work?" Negative, 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 negative. Instead of, "Yeah, man, fucking go for it." What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work out. Okay. Well, it's the same place you were in before you even thought or started it anyway. So you lost a little bit of money or time. You can make money back. I'm a big fan of that. I'm not gonna worry about that. Granted, people are in different stages of their life, and I've been guilty of using the excuse, well, if I was single and didn't have kids, I would take more risks. And you can't do that. You just can't do it. You got to go for it. I mean, Mike's seen me. and I've run a lot of business ideas by him. You know, he'll attest to it, and always supportive, but genuinely supportive. Like there's people like, oh yeah, go for it, it's going to be awesome, and they're shining you. But your true core group of people will truly be happy for you and rooting for you every step of the way, and offer to help in any way they can. That's the place you want to be at. That's the people you want to be around.
That will have your
Like
back no matter what.
like you know, Mike lived in New York City for a long time. You know, he basically ran Midtown West. I'll say it. You know, and you were very nervous making your move to DC. Rightfully so, because you've never really done a move like that. You had a great job. You know, everything was in the vanilla box that it should be according to everyone else. But you knew that you were meant for more, and you knew you had to take the next step, and you had more opportunities. And you know, you were nervous, rightfully so. You were scared. And what did I always say?
The worst can happen. You always move back.
The worst thing that can happen, just move your ass back and you're good. And once you did that move, you made your next step, and then another opportunity opened up, and Florida was calling. How much
The
easy?
free state of Florida.
Yes, we love Florida. How much easier was that move after having done it the first time?
It was definitely, I felt more confident because it was a
I
more
saw it on my
calculated
end.
risk.
I
Yeah.
completely saw that.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I think when you talked about earlier about, you know, finding your identity, right, and your self-worth, I think you got to go back to your childhood and you got to look at the things that are holding you back. Like, what are the things? Not that we're going to be psychoanalysts here, but it's like fear. You Fear's not going to walk through the door and try to rob your house physically. It's going to rob you spiritually and mentally and emotionally. It's not like
Which
you
is
can get into a
worse.
fist fight. It's awful because it's you can't see it. And all you talked about the good voice and the bad voice, right? The saboteur, that's not a real person. So it's like they can come at any time. It's not like you can like put your arms up and block a punch. They can come at any time to
Out of
sabotage
nowhere.
you.
Out of nowhere.
Out, I don't know. You could be hanging out with your boys, and all of a sudden you can get a thought that could sabotage the whole night. And I've been there, and we still get those voices. But I think trying to understand why you don't like, if my identity is, or my self-worth is, I'll never get better than so and so, and let's just say it's a girl that she's so hot but she doesn't have your values. Oh, I'll never do better than this girl, because you're looking at one piece of the pie when there's seven other slices to look at. But because your self-worth is tied up into, I gotta have the cheerleader or the model, I have to, because that's going to validate who I am. It's never, but why does that? Oh, in my childhood I saw certain things. So it's like, you can't blame your parents for, where you're at in life. You can say, oh well, my mom wasn't good with money. No, it explains why you've made the choices you've made. Now, like you said, let's fix them, let's correct them, let's get around to people that can help you make better
Everything is fixable,
choices.
in my opinion. Everything.
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 But it starts, like you said, got to have a good group of friends. You got to be around people with the same values. You got to be around people that will help you fight these battles. You can't do it alone.
You got to make a roadmap of where you want to be 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and rewind all the way back with Mike, what he said about cryotherapy, relationships. You'll only get there by having positive relationships in your life. I'm telling you, it's the key to a lot of things. And this is coming from somebody that wasn't a believer. I wasn't into any of this shit. Mike knows me when I was younger. I was a lot different. So it is what it is. I'm glad, but I'm also glad I was that person, because I look back now and I'm like, man, I wish I did this earlier. And that's another thing. Don't do the what ifs, or I wish I did this sooner, or I wish I didn't spend this much money, or I wish I saved more. Just start now. All right, don't cry over spilled milk. That old saying.
Right.
Just do it now, and set yourself up for success.
And one thing I've learned, no matter what anyone believes in, whether it's a higher power, me it's God, right? I think God puts you exactly where you're supposed to be at the specific time.
I agree
Years
with that.
ago, I was not capable of handling certain things, but through experience, and I'm hoping that I can save people the experiences that I went through. But we all have our own story, and we're all gonna experience different things. And to surmise all this is, um, I think being able to identify your self worth, understanding the origins of why you believe a certain way, and then correcting them, and having the the um the network of people to help you with that is going to really help you get clear and specific about who you are.
Yeah, it's well said. And so I'll use this example. My my wife is a different religion than I am, whatever. And I grew up a certain way, and religion wasn't heavy. Like, it wasn't like we went to church here and there, but I was always traveling for swimming, like I said in the previous episode. So I was out and about on weekends, traveling the country. So I didn't really get too much involved in that. She grew up differently. She grew up in a different religion, and it was basically not instilled in her, but like each generation, like, oh, marry that religion, marry that religion, marry that religion. And I remember when things were going well when we were dating, I think we were out to dinner one night, and she was like, "You know, this isn't going anywhere." And I was
Ah,
like, I was like, "Oh shit, that's not what I thought this conversation was going. I thought everything was going great." And in my head, I'm like, "Oh man, that sucks." But I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, you're not the same religion as me." And I'm like, "Well, it's also not 1840, and we're in a free country or whatever." And I don't want to say made the argument, but I debated and I said, "Listen, does it really matter at the end of the day? Am I a good guy? Do I care for you? Do I treat you right?" To me, that's what mattered more than what somebody practiced or believed in. That's me. I know people are different. I'm not hating on any of that. I'm just saying, I don't care what, for me, I don't care what a girl is, as long as she treats me right, is a certain way,
mhm.
same core values, like we spoke about, all of that stuff. She can worship that the moon is made of cheese. I really don't give a shit. So she was like, "Well, it's not going to really fly with my family and my grandma, who was like, the matriarch of the family." Let me tell you something. When her grandmother met me, it was a wrap. She was like, "This guy's the man. It doesn't, and this was like the matriarch that everything had to be a certain way. All bets are off when she met me because she saw me for me and how I am and how I treated her granddaughter. And her and I, being from different religions, saw eye to eye on how we treat somebody and how we love somebody. And I think that was hugely important. And we were tight ever since. Good lady.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
she was
awesome.
pretty hardcore. I liked her.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, but I'm saying it, that shit doesn't matter. So even if you're up against that hurdle dating somebody, try not to let that, be the end of it or stall you in your progression if you want the relationship to go further. If it does on her end or his end, whatever, then it's not meant to be anyway, and move on. Move on.
Right.
But
Recognize the red flags.
I knew my self-worth, so I wasn't going to just cater or cave in or be like, "Oh, okay, like this is the last date, then that's it." Like, no, I know what I wanted. I know what I saw. I know what we said in the last episode, what we provide. It's a two-way street, and I'm not going to let anybody, tell me different or show me different. And if they do, then I don't want them in my life. It's just not meant to be.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You had the self worth to recognize the red flags. You had the self worth, and I think a lot of guys will see warning signs, but they compromise those things because somewhere along the lines, oh, I think we have a special guest. My cat just walked into the room. She was sleeping. So, but yeah, it's having the self worth to recognize those warning signs. Anything you want to say to surmise this, to kind of wrap this
Yeah, I
up
would
before
just say,
we
like,
go?
speaking of red flags, I mean, guys and especially girls, also, girls tend to, they're like a slalom. They just, like, they see a red flag, they push it aside, and it's when there's more than one red flag, pull the plug and just move on and get back to reshift to back to what you want and what's on your list of where you want your life to be in your relationship category. because there's nothing worse than just hanging on to something that you know deep down too many red flags. This isn't really, it's great or like whatever. The sex is so good. She's crazy. Let's all be honest. Like that shit doesn't last forever. And is it really worth your peace of mind and your lifestyle and your quality of life day in, day out? No way. No way.
Agreed.
Just take small steps and fight the inner voice that is always being negative. If you want to do something, go do it. If you want to start a business, go do it. If you want a good core group of friends, go make them. You want to get healthier, go get healthier. Go hire Mike. There you go.
Take action. That's the big thing. A lot of guys don't take action, and they talk it, but they don't back it up. And guys, there was a time when men would talk shit and back it up. Now they hide behind their computers or their phones or anything to avoid conflict. When we see stuff, you got to hit it head on.
And
You
it's
can't
easy
run.
to say, oh, I'll do it
Can't run.
tomorrow. I'll do it next week. It's the same shit with dieting. Like, oh, I'll start next week. I'll start next month. I'll start in 4 months. And next thing you know, a year goes by, 2 years go by. You're gonna be it's like
Right.
quicksand. The more you move, the more you sink deeper. You gotta just, like Mike said, just go for it. You gotta do
Yep.
it.
Got to do it. And just like that, we'll wrap this up, and we'll look forward to our
Yeah.
next podcast, man. And we got some great stuff we're building on, man.
Yeah, we appreciate everything. We appreciate everybody listening. And thanks again. And just be good to each other out there and be good to yourself.
Absolutely. And go to our YouTube page, click like, and also, Greg, where can they find us on social media?
Social media is Instagram, EmpowerMan Podcast, also YouTube. Those two things are our main ones right now. Shoot us a DM if you want us to talk about anything. We got a bunch last time. That's why this was a big topic of what everyone wanted to know what we did. So we appreciate that and the feedback, and we look forward to bringing you more some good stuff. All right.
And guys, if you just want to drop us a line, if you have a question or if you're going through something, hit us up.
Yeah.
We may not get back to you right away, but we will
Happy to
respond.
help.
And the thing is, like, we don't have someone checking it. We check it. We screen
It's
everything
all
that comes
us.
in. So it's all us. So you're
It's
not going to
all
have
us. There's no
someone
sponsors. We're
answering
not
center.
editing any of this. This is just raw material, raw talk, and just real talk on how things are. So we appreciate it.
Like Greg said, guys, take care of each other, love one another, and peace.
All right, guys. See you.